join, let's back up.
Yes.
What is didn't a lot of the people that started PF Chang's actually start working in Knoxville, have a connection to Knoxville?
Yes, I tell you, it's a magical story. If you take a look at the property there, which interestingly, when you and I worked together at WIVK, it was up on Bearden Hill, and you could look down on Paper Mill, and there was a putt-putt golf course, which I happened to frequent quite a bit in the 70s.
I remember that.
That's a Regas family-owned property. And from the putt-putt, Grady's was born, and from Grady's, of course, now it's evolved into PF Chang's. So that is it's a hallowed, sacred restaurant piece of property there.
Did a lot of the people that work at Grady's go on in the restaurant business at other places and succeed like PF Chang's?
I'll tell you the story, and of course we call it the restaurant tree. And everything in the restaurant business, from PF Chang's to Grady's, it all goes back to, we call him the chairman, Bill Regas, which I'll tell you a quick little story. How many people have had the honor in their careers to work both for Bobby Denton and Bill Regas? That's something I'm very proud of. And if I take that a step further, back in 1953, before your time and my time, when WIVK went on the air, they were on Gay Street across the street from the Regas restaurant. So I sort of love those fun little connections, which you think are coincidences, but perhaps they're not in the big theme of things. So
yeah, if you think about the restaurant business, people like Bill Regas, I mean, that's got to be one of the tops. And Dave Thomas, who started Wendy's, worked for Mr. Regas, I think, as a busboy, if I'm not mistaken, a long, long time ago.
It was either the late 80s or early 90s. We had a Grady's get-together. We had 4 or 5 or 6 restaurants, and Rick Tasman and myself came up from the Birmingham restaurant, and Dave Thomas and his family were there for a big reunion dinner that we had at the Regas restaurant. So there were some great stories told about how when Bill Regas and Dave Thomas were youngsters, they worked together, washing dishes, learning the trade at the Regas restaurant downtown. But the story of the tree, I will tell you. PF Chang's basically came into existence and was able to grow because of starting with Bill Regas. We had the Grady's concept, and one of the managers who came in, we opened the first Grady's back in 1982. I was a server right out of college, working weekends at WRJZ when it was country then, and I'm like, well, I'm going to jump back into the restaurant business. My bio, by the way, will be platters to platters. Now, if you're old enough to realize that. So I'll save that one. But we opened up the first Grady's, and you had Mike Connor in charge. Of course, now there's Connor Concepts in the Chop House. He was our big boss. And the number 2 person in the restaurant at that time was Rick Federico. So we all grew together in the Grady's concept and had a great time. We were like the top little growing restaurant concept in the Southeast. And in 1989, Norman Brinker was attracted to the restaurant. Now, Norman, of course, the guru of the industry forever. So we, quote, merged with Chili's, and they also picked up Macaroni Grill, and this is how I'm headed towards the PF Chang story. So Norman, very smart man, plucked Rick Federico from the Grady's family and put him in charge of the Macaroni Grill. So you fast forward 5 or 6 years later, and Rick's growing the Italian concepts for the company now known as Brinker International. My understanding is Rick got a phone call one day, and it was a headhunter. And Rick said, I'm very happy. I have nowhere to go. This is the fulfillment of my career. Well, unless it's this little concept that I've fallen in love out of Phoenix with 4 restaurants called PF Chang's. And the recruiter must have smiled and said, well, that's who I'm calling for. So a lot of us then moved with Rick from different jobs that we had over to PF Chang's, and that's what began that growth.